evening, everyone, and welcome to the Nick Delinski Show. This is Scott Kerker, along with Metamore head coach Nick Delinski. Coach, I think the million-dollar question around Redbird land was, how are we going to respond after the loss to Washington? I think you kind of, you came through with flying colors. I'm sure as a coach there were things you probably could pick out in the game film that said we didn't do well there, but for the most part, your kids played really well. I think your coaches really did a great job coaching and coached those kids up and came out and played a great game against the Morton Potters.
Yeah, it was a big week for us. Obviously, once you get that first loss, we talked about it last week. You can't let one turn into two. And I thought our kids responded really well with a great week of practice. Executed what we were looking to do. Obviously, we had a few mishaps along the way that led to the score being a little closer than we were hoping at the end. But we executed that first half and that first quarter exactly what we wanted to do in terms of if we defer, which we did, get a good kickoff, pin them deep, and then get a 3-and-out and put the offense in midfield, and then it was good to score. It had been a long time since we had one in the end zone, and we put together a nice little drive there to kind of – I think that was a sigh of relief, a little bit of breathing moment for us offensively and as coaches of just getting the kids back and getting them back understanding that, we're pretty good when we do what we're supposed to do and execute at the level we're supposed to. So that was huge. But, yeah, it was a bit of a sigh of relief, and then the game gets rolling, and, then you got to – it was punch for punch after that.
Yeah, it was definitely an up-and-down game. And, and a lot of people, and I said this before one time when we played Rochester and won, was it 43-41? I thought the defense played well that night. I thought your defense played over more. I thought they played pretty well too.
We did some really good things. Obviously, we had a couple lapses, especially the one late in the game. But otherwise, a couple special teams mistakes that were huge, kickoff return, and then the punt that we hit off our foot and, give them a really short field. And, that's 14 points there. And then we get a block punt. So special teams obviously was a point of emphasis this week for us. But all those put the defense in bad spots. Getting the ball at midfield. When you get the ball at midfield, you can do a few more things offensively because you can take a few more chances. And they hit a screen outside off of some run action. And, we just missed a tackle and down the sideline. He goes for that one. You give them the ball on the 12. They got a pretty good chance of trying to find a way to get one in. And, on the kickoff return, you don't get a chance to defend. It makes it pretty difficult. So when you give them 3 scores that way. But defensively, I thought Coach Herring and Coach Keese and Albert and the rest of the crew kind of had them all lined up where we needed them to be. And for the most part, we got to the places we needed because that quarterback's dangerous.
Yes.
He's a real good football player. Fortunately, he had a bit of a wrist injury there in the second half, and then they bring in a kid that's a sophomore who's a little bit different athlete, very similar in terms of what they want to do. Probably throws it maybe a smidge better as a natural passer, but not as big as a runner. Right. But was still able to make some big plays there at the end and keep them in it.
Yeah, for sure. The other thing, too, I thought your kids, when I talk about you guys playing well defensively, there were 2 times that they were able to get into the red zone and came away with no points because your defense stepped up and played really good.
And the one was, I think it was a 16-play drive or whatever. It took basically the rest of the first quarter after we scored. And, it was a real long drive there. And we can get just a little bit of time in the first quarter before we flip sides. But that one and then the one right before the end of the half where we get the knockdown by Grady Neal. No, it was Grady Neal knocks it down. And Caleb Morrison got a good pressure there. Sped the time clock up. And we told Grady, man, if you catch it, you might have gone 92. There wasn't a whole lot because where they were at route-wise. Now, I don't know if he was going to outrun everybody for 92 yards, but if he could have got to maybe the 10, then Jadon might have finished the rest of that one before the end of the half. But, 2 huge plays down that stretch of putting pressure on them. And got a big third down loss there to help us when they got down in the red zone because I think they were goal to goal from the 10, and we got a negative play to make it 13, and that really changes everything you're trying to get done down there.
For sure. The other thing, too, and we'll talk about Jadon on the offensive side of the ball, but I thought defensively there were, I think, maybe 2 plays he made where it looked like the guy caught it, and he just knocked the ball out, and I think one of them would have been a touchdown.
Yeah, well, he had the one that was he kind of on a boot, which would have been the one in the end zone. He ended up dropping it, ended up being incomplete, but they also had the penalty. Well, not a penalty, the inadvertent whistle was blown on that one, so it came back and restarted that play over. But no, he made a great recovery there. And the other one was midfield. kind of in that in-between. They ran a crossing route, and he just kind of got picked off by our own guy, but was able – I mean, speed helps. And he was able to get back in there and just grind and rip until that ball came out late. And, those are huge plays. I mean, that was 25 yards of difference that in the end, you don't know how that works in terms of field position. Yeah. So those are two huge plays. He's a pretty talented corner. He hasn't given up many completions over the last 3 years on the guy that he's covering, and he'll tell you that the one that Morton got completed on him was an incompletion too. But, it was kid dove for it, and it's a tough play for the officials to make. But no, he's pretty talented on that side of it too.
Yeah, he is. And you mentioned Caleb Morrison. I thought he had an outstanding game. I thought you had a number of guys that played and came in and did a nice job. One of the guys, you had a sickness with Jackson Backus, and Caden Petoni came in, played. I thought did a really nice job as a defensive end.
And Caden played most of the second half against Washington too. He gives us a little something. Jackson's long and lean. Caden's not short by any means, but he's 6'1" or so. But he just has a different angle. And that's kind of what we needed against what both of those teams ended up being fine. And Jackson's back healthy this week. So, having all three of those guys back is good because they all have their own little things. I mean, Jackson pass rush and 6'5", and he's got long arms. Sambar is probably the mixture of the two between Tony and Backus. So having those three guys all healthy this week will be huge. But Remy Lemington stepped in, or Lemkeman. I always want to say it because it's Remington. Lemkeman came in and got his first start as a senior kid that just worked his tail off and does everything you're asking, and had a real good game, and getting caught up to speed and on the things that need to happen. I thought he did a real good job.
Yeah, he definitely made some big tackles for you. I didn't think they had the 116 play drive, but other than that, I never thought they were able to run the ball like I thought they might be able to.
Yeah, we kind of took the run game away, that's for sure. And, when I went back and looked at the stats, and I'm like, well, that's a pretty good night out there of what they can do offensively. I mean, they're 250 to 300 yards rushing is pretty normal for them. And
about their weight, too.
Yeah, there's a lot of big guys up front. And but, no, we were able to get after them pretty good up front, to contain what they're doing. They ran a few different things than we anticipated. We thought we'd see a little bit more of one scheme, and they didn't go to it as much. And hopefully it has something to do with what we were doing up front, and they thought that they couldn't get to it. But the quarterback getting hurt kind of hurts their run game a little bit because I think he's their biggest weapon. So that kind of probably put a little bit in it, but we didn't give up the big run, and we took care of him in the run game. Gave him a few big passes that we're not real happy about, but things we'll continue to work at.
And we've mentioned a lot of guys, and we haven't mentioned what you said before we went on air. One of the best defensive games of the game that night was AJ Yeager. Yeah,
AJ, defensive player of the week for us at nose, just extremely disruptive. He plays with a high motor. Another sophomore that's just getting better each week is because he keeps growing and learning what he can do, and us as coaches learning what his strengths are too, is trying to make him put our guys in the best position to go make as many plays as possible. But he just keeps fighting. A lot of double teams when you're the nose, either at what we call the zero, which is head up the center, or when he's playing just shade. Puts him in a lot of double teams. And if the thing is right now, he's starting to get to the point, if he doesn't get doubled, he's going to make a play. And the thing is, if he's getting doubled, that means the linebacker's free. And it's very complimentary, and he's done a very good job of understanding, hey, this isn't necessarily my tackle to make, but I'm the one that made that play because I kept Caleb free, or I kept it was Aiden Wallace, or that's Remy. Like, I've kept one of those guys free to go make a play.
Yeah, and the team defense, I think, is really starting to get a little better. This is exactly what you want. You don't want to be peaking week 1 or 2. You want to keep getting better and better.
Yeah, I mean, and especially with how young we are in a lot of spots. And, I mean, even some of our seniors are, first-year starters and just trying to learn. So, obviously, we want to make sure we continue to grow and give them opportunities of growth and see where they're going. But it is, and like we talked about, just understanding what they do best and trying to make sure we're getting kids in the right roles to make sure they know what they're doing. We know Jadon Cranford can cover in man, and Kylan McMillan now as a safety has been really able to roam, and we've got Stephen Petrie's a different safety, and Mark Ashelman's a different type of safety. Those guys just trying to get all those pieces, and Jason Pickles has been quietly very good defensively too, just at corner, depending along with Braden Bittner. They've done a good thing. So this week will be a little more challenged. Can't throw it around their quarterback's back from last year. But no, I thought those guys have all played pretty well.
You mentioned Jason Pickles. I thought There were 2 play hits, once on a defensive play. I believe he had a pass deflection, a real nice play. Maybe the third quarter.
Yeah, it's somewhere in there, yeah.
And then the other one I thought was just an outstanding call. It's 4th and goal from the 8.
Mm-hmm.
And it looked like he kind of decoyed and had Jadon kind of go outside to get the defense to kind of slant one way.
He draws a lot of eyes.
He draws a lot of eyes.
So.
And then you threw back to Jason Pickles, and he weaved his way, and he got it. It would have been a first down if nothing else.
Yeah, I mean, they gave him the touchdown. It's tough to tell on camera even, but, otherwise we got a first down. So that was key. Being able to get the first down there, and he worked his way in and got in the end zone. But Evan Grove made a big play on that one.
Yes.
His job as left guard, getting out and finding that first guy to block. He ends up blocking 2 guys. He gets his guy, and the guy that the other linebacker was kind of following him actually kind of pushes Evan, but knocks them both off balance. He gets that guy, and then Jason's able to snake and weave his way in. And obviously, we didn't think at the time that was going to be the touchdown that we really, really needed for the end. But when you get up 10 points with 2, 3.5, 4 minutes to go, you feel like you got a pretty good chance to win that game.
Yeah, especially when your offense has been playing as well as it had been.
Yeah, I mean, 43 points is a lot. And basically, 1 score in the first quarter, and third quarter we were blank. So we were really good in the evens. We'd like to get good in all of them, but some of that had to do with, they did go on that really long drive in the first quarter. And then the third quarter, they made a few adjustments, and it took us a little while to get them adjusted. When we went back and watched film, you're like, well, missed this block here, or we missed a read here, or whatever it might be. But we had 2 big balls over the top that we couldn't quite get to. We got the one down the middle to Kylan that got us to midfield after we were backed up. But we thought there was maybe one other one, and he just stumbled on the long one. We looked at the film and like, that one could have gone 92, and so, but those are things that we got going for us. We do have the ability to stretch the field, but we'll talk about Jadon, I'm sure, at some point here. But he was pretty special.
Yeah, he was very special. You've got to be really happy with how your offensive line though has matured in the first 4 games. From the first game to now, to what you did the other night, I think you've got to be really happy with those guys. And I believe you're rotating in a 6th guy, too.
Yeah, I mean, Tyler Grace is the 6th one, and with Jeffrey Reyes, and then when Evan Grove came back, Tyler was playing guard. But, yeah, Tyler's been pretty good as the float guy, and it might be a set at left tackle, it might be a set at right tackle. It might have to go into guard with Evan's shoulder scenario, just maybe give him a series off. So he's been huge. I mean, when you can get that guy that's kind of that float between everybody else, and you really don't lose a whole lot when he's in there, and you don't, that's great feeling as a coach. And Ryan's done a really, really good job with those guys to get, 6, 7. Jay Murphy's another guy. We really feel we were 7, maybe 8 guys that could go out on a Friday night. And that's huge depending on, what the scenarios are. So all those guys are getting reps during the week. Coach Aldo does a good job of getting them ready and prepared for the week. And but no, I mean, we know that we got a bunch of green guys up there, outside of Owen and Riley, the center and the right guard. Those other 3, no matter who's in there, are all in their first year. So, the exciting thing is we think there's still more in the tank for those guys.
For sure. They've gotten a lot better. Your running attack has been, I think, very good. Last week was the best so far, and there's probably room to grow from that, too.
Well, for sure. I mean, I don't think we've hit our ceiling yet on what we can do offensively. And getting all those pieces together, I mean, really, Steven hasn't had his game yet. But he just keeps doing what he's supposed to, right? 3rd and 3s, 4th and 2s. When the game's on the line, we finish the game off. We need that 1 first down. We go to Steven. Jade, we don't always use Jadon in the blocking role, but he wanted it. He goes, I got this. And he went and got the linebacker that he's got to get and popped him pretty good. So Steven was able to pick up that last first down so we could run the clock out. But that's the kind of group we got. A lot of selfless guys, guys that are going to do what's best for the team. And it really shows.
The other guy that I really liked the other night was, and he didn't get a lot of carries. He maybe had 1 or 2 carries. Was Jaden Lambert.
I don't think he had any. But yeah, so he did a real good job. He was our lead blocker. We tweaked some schemes during the week and gave a little something without a puller, just to change the look for everybody. We're pretty gap scheme, meaning we pull a guard mostly all the time, and this gave us something a little different. And I think it really slowed down the backside linebacker for at least in the first half, and then a little bit in the second half too. They had to make some adjustments, but we're so guard pull oriented that it does tip off at times.
For sure.
But to have the ability, to run something out that doesn't And Jadon's the ideal running back for what we're doing. And Jaden got up in there and did some lead blocking, and then Jadon gets one-on-one with you. It's a pretty good chance it's going to go a long ways.
You like your chances if you're a Metamorph
absolutely. Yeah. There's a lot of cheering on our sideline when that happens.
Yes, and a lot of cheering up in the stands too.
Yeah, there was.
But yeah, you're right. He didn't have any carries the other night, but he had a lot of lead blocks.
And that's what he did. I mean, when Jadon went, I think it was 8 for 175 or whatever it was in the first half, right? And 3 touchdowns. You got to have dudes that are blocking for you, and you got to have guys that care enough to do their job so he can do his job. And along with that, he took care of him this week for lunch, and rewarded the O-line guys and those guys that are blocking for him. With some pizza for lunch this week, and but those are the things we talk about, right? When we talk about being a team player and understanding your role within the group. He knew what has to happen in front of him for him to get to what he did, and so that's huge. And they ate a lot of pizza today. I know that.
That's good for them. That's,
absolutely. Just make sure we get a lift in afterwards.
You mentioned Stephen Petrie, and I thought he's been managing the game so well. The other night he had a big run. I believe it was in the third quarter, going to what would have been our right to your left. He had a run where I think he spun 3 times and picked up about 9 yards, and I thought,
and a face mask on top of it. But his yards are tough yards, and they're needed. And he understands his role, and he knows that at some point one of those runs ain't going to be so tough. And hopefully he hits one and he gets the long run here coming soon. But he also had a big carry on the Jason Pickles touchdown drive down the sideline there on a counter that we got around the edge and picked up another first down. So. When you go back and look at Stephen's carries, he's not averaging a whole lot of yards per carry right now, but he probably is close to leading the team in first down carries, to pick up that first down. So that's huge in what he does. And our kids understand it and they love it. When you got a physical quarterback or anybody that runs the ball physical, the sideline really feeds off of it.
And we've mentioned everybody in the offense and pretty much on the defense too, but your tight end, Elijah Edwards.
Elijah had a great night. He just keeps getting better. Another kid that's a first-year starter for us. We talked about it before. He played a little left tackle as a sophomore. Now as a junior, he's playing tight end and good athlete. Just keeps getting bigger and understanding his role, and we use him a lot. I mean, we're pretty tight end driven as well, and along with our H-backs, which is Caleb Morrison or Jaden Lambert, depending on which formation we're in. But all those guys, we had Zeke Bavard back now from an ankle injury, so it's just another guy that mixes in there.
And I think you've gotten Elijah a touchdown this year.
Yeah, he's got one. He'll remind you too. He'll remind Coach, I got 1 catch for 1 touchdown. You might want to throw it to me a little bit more. So this is kind of the way he is, but we'll see. So Elijah, you keep blocking, maybe we can reward you again.
Yeah, you've got to make those guys happy, and he's done a great job. When Jadon was able to turn the corner, a couple of them he didn't get touched.
Yeah. So I mean, that same play we hit, three big long touchdown runs. We did call that play again later, so people are always like, "Why didn't you?" But we did. But all 3 hit in a different spot, and that's what this play can do. You just kind of find different cracks and different windows, and when you got a kid with great vision like Jadon does, you only need a crease, right?
Yeah.
But once he's through, he's gone. And so he took one and made a move on the safety. The next one he took around the sideline. Up the sideline, and the other one he actually cut back through the A gap, broke a tackle, and then went for the last one for 30 plus, whatever it was. So that was a tough run, but probably my favorite run of Jadon's that Friday night on top of the big long touchdown run. We needed that big first down to keep moving and to get down, and it was all on that Pickles drive, or I think it was on Jason's drive. We score on the screen. We run buck, and he carries a couple guys for 4 yards, and he bikes out of it, ends up getting about a 14, 15-yard carry out of a carry that's probably blocked up as a 3 or 5 yarder, so those are the ones that when it matters at crunch time to be able to, lower a pad level, take on a hit, and then keep moving forward. That's huge.
Yeah, for sure. Coach, we'll take a timeout. When we come back, we'll name the player of the game, and we'll talk a little bit about this upcoming game and a little bit about the middle line.
Sounds good.
Germantown Grill, where our staff loves the game as much as you do. Football, basketball, baseball, whatever your sport, we'll be cheering right along as we serve up your hometown favorites. We've got everything you need to celebrate the wins. Food and flavors to satisfy any craving. Plus, the best private gaming around, powered by Gold Rush Gaming, the gold standard in video gaming. only at Germantown Grill in Germantown Hills.
Welcome back to the Nick Delinski Show. Like we always do, I want to thank Jake and Sarah for letting us come down to the grill here and film the show. It's really appreciated. Coach, player of the game.
Jadon Cranford. He had a pretty good night.
Yeah.
Like 15 for 205, running it with 3 touchdowns, and then I thought really the biggest play that he made after he made a mistake on the punt. I think that was really burning at him, and we got that screen, and it was one of those it's like we got to get him the ball back, and what's the best way to get him some space? And Coach Otto will tell you he loves screens, and especially when it's a non-screen down, which we should probably call more screens, but. We saw earlier in the game we went to an earlier screen and we didn't connect to Jason. We had a little motion and we flipped a guy and really rotated with the flip. So when we rotated that flip over and I looked out there and I'm like, there's nobody over there. Like, we're going to have 3 dudes. As long as we can get it completed to Jadon, there's a real good chance he's going to house this. And, he gets it and 70 yards later. And, he ends his night with 275 yards of offense and, 4 touchdowns. Those are special nights. You don't get those all the time. And, Jake Roman came and spoke to us on Thursday. And, he's had he had one of the most special nights ever as a running back and against Chatham Glenwood. And he talked to him about saying yes, about what it means to say yes to be a Metamora football player, what it means to say yes to be a man and step into that role and as you grow and mature. And it was a great message for our kids. And I really appreciated Jake coming over. And saw a little – it's a big night from Jadon, and he said yes, and he wanted the ball there and went and got it, and little different player than Jake Roman, but 275 yards of total offense. Sounds like a Jake Roman kind of night.
It does, very much.
But Jadon, really played well and really felt. I think this will feed into that confidence the rest of the way for him.
For sure. And he complimented his lineman in the interview on the news afterwards. Mm-hmm. But on that screen pass, I thought there were some blocks that got him into the free. And then when he cut back at about the 45-yard line,
and then he's gone.
And I thought, oh boy, that's a race you're not going to win.
No, not many guys are going to chase him down, that's for sure. And I think even one, Coach Kurt wasn't sure if he was going to score on and kind of looked at him and like, and nobody's going to catch that angle. Like,
no.
Nobody.
Maybe Kurt.
Maybe Kurt. But, you get that one block on a screen, and usually that's what it comes down to. Can you get the first block, and then the other guys just kind of find their way through and find a guy, and that was key. And that was Evan Grove getting out there in front, and then you just let green grass and running backs do their job, and Jadon does it pretty well. Yeah,
he was gone, and that was a big win. You got the 43-40 win at Morton, knocked them out of the unbeaten ranks.
Yeah.
Evened your record at 1-1 in the Middle Illini, 3-1 overall. And now you head to Canton. Like you said before, Canton's huge.
They're big. I mean, they got a lot of big dudes, and we're up to just another night of having our kids going against them. And offensively, we're pretty big up front too. I mean, it's not like we're small up there.
We are big up front.
It's a pretty good group, and but their offensive line will outweigh our guys a little bit. They'll have a couple guys that are probably 270 plus. So we got to make sure we use our quickness. And Coach Herring's done a good job of angling and stunting and getting some blitzes and getting things moving to get those guys having to get off their landmarks, and that's when you can kind of make some plays against those big guys. But they've scored some points, every week besides Morton, who Morton got to him early and that one kind of snowballed out of them. But they've had a lead, and I think week 1, week 2, and week 4 against EP. So offensively, they can score some points. So we got a good challenge up front.
Yeah, for sure. And it's always a little different when you have to travel all the way over to, I think it's on the other side of Iowa, isn't it?
I don't know if it's quite that far, but it's similar to going to LP, right? I mean, it's about the same distance, but it seems a whole lot longer.
You leave at noon.
No interstate, no interstate. Maybe that makes that travel a little different. But, I think we've matured enough. This is really our 3rd trip after going down to Chatham, going to LP, of understanding what's that long bus ride would be like. And then we talked about it this week. When you go on the road, you got to bring your own energy.
For sure.
We really talked about that and how you got to feed off of each other, and you got to bring it because they're not doing anything for you to get you ready for the game.
Right.
Now they're going to do things to get Canton ready for the game, but they're not going to do things to get Metamora ready for the game. So in terms of bringing that normal energy that we have at home, we got to find a way to bring it on the road, and so it's been a big point of emphasis this week.
Yeah, to me, it's always can't always seems like somewhat of a trap game.
Well, I mean, the one thing you're always going to get, you're going to get kids to play their tails off. They play hard. They give you everything they got. There's never an off night for those guys in terms of what their energy level and their effort level is. The key is you got to get out to a fast start, right? You get out to a fast start, and then the game changes. But, a couple of years ago, we went over there, had their quarterback dead to rights on a sack. We miss him. He ends up housing it. And then we end up losing that game, week 8, and just an or week 9 it actually was then, just in an unbelievable fashion that we end up not winning that game. But a lot of that had to do with because we gave them a lot of energy early, so we got to bring ours and take away theirs as much as we can.
The other thing too, when I look at your team this year, it seems like you've got a lot of depth in a lot of different positions, and I think in games like this, that's big because you can keep bringing kids in, and eventually you're going to find somebody that's got a little bit of energy.
Well, and it keeps kids fresh, right? And they got a lot of guys going both ways, especially the big guys up front. They play offense and defense. So, us in terms of maybe upping the tempo a little bit, trying to get those guys moving left to right and make them run up and down the field, and then, you wear them out. And it's hard to get that second and third win, once you lose it, especially. So that's kind of our plan in terms of that part of it. But, we know we're going to get their best shot. Got a lot of respect for the head coach. He's done a good job since coming over to IVC in a not easy position.
Yeah.
It's been a challenge, but he does a good job with those kids, and they execute at a pretty high level. So it's all about, can we be in the right spots all the time, make sure we're doing our job, and have good eye discipline defensively. And then offensively, it's like, we got to make sure we keep this moving. Like, you got to find your holes. We got to make sure that we're executing. They get into a 3-3-5, so we're going to see a lot of blitzing, a lot of angle, a lot of stunts, and everybody's got to make sure that their gaps are sound.
You look around the Mid-Illini Conference, and teams are starting to kind of shake out where they're supposed to be. Any surprises from that?
Well, I mean, you got to see where this week you got Morton and Pekin. That's a big game to see where Pekin is. I mean, I think Washington's pretty good. So, I mean, there could be a situation where maybe our 24-0 loss doesn't look so terrible when it's all said and done. I don't like the 0, that's for sure. But I think that's the big game of the week this week, to try to get a feel where is Morton going to respond after our game. And then what's Pekin do after Washington as well, and trying to figure out where they're at. That Dunlap's rolling right now. They've had they've kind of put themselves in a position to be in a good spot, and they got Pekin early. So with theirs, but I mean, I think everybody else is kind of fitting into spot. East Peoria's got a chance now to see what they got their first 4, and quarterback's really, really talented. He can really spin it. They got a couple talent. They got a big running back, and they're big up front. But they got some guys that can go catch the ball, and then defensively, I think they're still trying to find their way a little bit. They've had some good games, and then Canton got to them a little bit, but Canton broke a few big ones. So it's all about trying to figure out where we're at, and I like where we're at right now. I mean, we can control where we can go this week, and got to ask this week, what's our goals for the rest of the season. So I know it's coach speak, but we got to win this one, and then next week, and as long as we can keep stacking 1-0s, we'll feel pretty good when we get to week 9.
I like to look and see what teams we've played with playoff points, but I like to see what they've done, who they played. You can go online and watch a little bit. One team that got a little familiarity with. It's not going to give us any playoff points, but Chatham Glen with a big win last week down in Rochester, overtime.
I think that's week 0 is huge for us because I think Chatham's really, really good, and they've got 2 pretty good wins, one over Edwardsville, one over Rochester here. And it exposed some of the things we needed to work at, and that was huge.
Yeah.
And it's better to do it when it doesn't count than when it does. And that was one of the things, and I think we grew early from that. And that's why we talked about earlier, one of the previous shows about why we like week 0 versus somebody else versus not playing it. And everybody's got their own opinions, but I think for us, it really helps us understand where we're at a little bit. As long, you come out healthy, and you get a good look on film, and and you're going against a quality program like Chatham. Glenwood, it really helps.
For sure. And what do they have, like 3 possible D1 players?
They got a lot of good players. And that's up to them to decide who's going to get recruited or not. But there's a lot of really good ones that if they were in Metamora, they'd have a pretty good chance playing for us too, for sure. But I mean, they should. And Coach Hayes done a real good job of putting that program together. Not that they've ever been down, but when a new guy comes in, there's always that next rotation of whatever. And they've done a real good job, especially offensively, because they can score some points in a hurry.
I believe their offensive coordinator used to be the head coach at Morton. Lennon?
I did not know that.
Yeah, I think it's Lennon.
Yeah, that's who it is the offensive coordinator. I did not know he was at Morton.
I think he was at Morton.
His son was the Heisman Trophy winner of Division III 2 years in a row, and then his other son was the wide receiver that may or may not have scored a bunch of touchdowns in a game that doesn't matter against us.
But yeah, they've got that was actually, like you said, a really good week 0 test for us.
Absolutely.
And it worked out perfectly. I like to see how they do.
Well, it's always, and you form relationships with those guys. They're just like, Sterling and Coach Schlemmer and those guys got a big win versus UT, and they ran off a bunch of points in a row from the second quarter on, and that's a big win for them to get them. And now, does it help us? Yeah, it's another playoff point, and puts them closer to being a built playoff team, which I think now their path is pretty clear on what they need to do to get there. And but no, I mean, obviously I watched John's information anyway if we weren't playing them. But yeah, I mean that's we look around the state and you start to compare, and Sycamore is a program I follow really closely, and they lose to Muhammad Seymour. Morton beats Muhammad Seymour. We beat Morton, so you kind of start to feel like there's a lot of parity, or what is this? I don't know. A lot of question marks in that terms, but Sycamore we don't have to worry about. But Muhammad Seymour could be a 4A school, and depending on where we fall when this all gets said and done.
It's nice to be 3-1 though, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you can only win one a week, and we got it this week, so that's the plan, and we got to go put together the rest. I mean, basically today is the midway point of the regular season. So,
right.
We get 9 weeks, and we're 4.5.
Yep. Coach, congratulations on being 3-1. Good luck Friday, and bring home a W.
Yeah, we'll do our best.
That'll do it. We'll see you Friday in Canton.